I got an email just a little while ago. A fan of mine spoke to Ben Shapiro at UW-Madison. Apparently, because the only people that conservative demagogues will talk to these days are like college students with no preparation or whatever. Like, that's the limit of their willingness to engage with opposing viewpoints. Anyway, the channel's Demigloom. They have a bit of content going on, which I respect. They're a Wiggler. Is that true? A Cuffles fan as well. Well, UW-Madison is a good school. If they were a good school, they wouldn't let Ben Shapiro in. They emailed me and they said that they weren't really happy with their performance in this mini debate, and they wanted my opinion. So, you know what? I haven't seen it. So I'll give it a look. Maybe it's actually good. Maybe shit themselves and run away crying. I have no idea. Click the thumbs up, you coward. Okay. Click. Demi Gloom is in chat. No kidding. What's up, Demi?
Hello, Ben. There was a time where the word mother exclusively described a woman in relation to her biological offspring, but our definition has since shifted to account for adoption, leaving us with a more social and less biological outlook on motherhood. My question for you is how affirming transgender identity is such a threat to biology when we have clear precedent for similar shifts in language?
Okay. Opening bit, 10 out of 10 flawless. That was perfect right there. Excellent question. It's one that I've never seen a conservative answer properly. You delivered it quickly and succinctly. You didn't stammer. Great, great.
Okay, so usually there is a distinction. You can call somebody mother, but then an adoptive mother is not going to be insulted when you say biological mother. Right? An adopted mother is not going to say...
But they're still a mother. See, this is what they never answer. They're still a mother. Which indicates that the term mother is not purely biological. So if we're willing to make that acknowledgement, is there not perhaps some other acknowledgement we might make vis-a-vis the relationship between a social and biological construct? Who the fuck says biological mother casually? Yeah, the key difference here is that sometimes with adoptive parents, one might say, oh, I'm their mother, their biological mother is X. But what people don't say is, oh, I'm their adoptive mother, their real mother is X. People don't say that, because that would imply that an adoptive mother is not a real mother, when they are. What they're not is a biological mother. And people acknowledge this, usually, but they're still a mother.
The biological mother is an inappropriate term. The trans movement claims that the term biological female is somehow offensive. The trans...
Dodging the question, by the way, the question that she asked was about the acceptance of terminology shifting with regards to the biological nature of motherhood, not whether or not trans people are offended by the term biological woman.
Movement will claim that female encompasses not biology somehow. It's a bizarrely illogical categorization. So the trans movement is not a threat to biology. Biology is biology. People will continue to reproduce. I mean, some of us. But in any case, the no implication made. But in any case, some people will continue to reproduce. Those reproductive relationships will be almost entirely male-female. The only exceptions would be in vitro or artificial insemination, which will be extraordinarily tough.
Notice again how he's completely dodged the question here. This is one of the reasons why I don't usually think there's that much value in confronting people in environments like this, unless you have like the kind of question designed to make them fluster and bluster. Because he has the microphone, of course. You can't talk over him. The mic can be taken from you, whereas he can just ramble on and on about some other adjacent question. Sometimes it's possible to hold them to account. For example, Alec Gunter did a really good job just sort of, frankly, bullying Matt Walsh in the recent confrontation they had. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't take Alec's mic away. I'm surprised they didn't just yoink Alec and Shark. Yeah, Shark also did extremely well. Bullied less, but still did very well.
Tiny percentage of actual inseminations and pregnancies. So biology is not threatened. Truth is threatened. I'm not worried about biology being threatened. If you want to threaten your own biology, I mean, that's your prerogative. But truth, the idea that male refers to a biological category as opposed to an idea that you have in your head that is unverifiable by any sort of objective reality, that is something that nobody who cares about truth should acquiesce to.
And yet, through the social process of adoption, which is not biological and therefore not tied to direct genetic lineage, we can call a person a mother even if they share no direct biological relationship with an adopted child. So the term mother, which does carry biological implications, has a non-biological meaning.
The entire way that we communicate is through words that have mutually agreed upon definitions. And the definition of a word cannot be
Vaush, are there any arguments that can be honestly made by the right that cannot be countered by the left? No. We are always right, and they are, at least in their disagreements with us, always wrong. The reason for this is because fundamentally, right now, the dichotomy between right and left framing of issues is one of framework. And the framework the right uses when engaging with these issues is fundamentally broken. Now, when I say the left is always right in this regard, what I am, of course, referring to is the idealized, like, material dialectic, like, sort of intersectional Marxist framework of analysis, which obviously no humans perfectly subscribe to, including myself. Like, it's a matter of framework. There are conclusions that you can be led to that aren't perfect as a left-leaning person, but I struggle to imagine no, I guess I'm speaking a little bit hastily there. I guess what I should say is that if you're thoughtful and considerate and adopt a broadly progressive and left-leaning framework of analysis, I don't think that there's anything that you can lose to a conservative when it comes to issues of disagreement. Sometimes a conservative will say something correct, as if by accident, like, I think that a strong family is good. But what do they mean by a strong family? And what's more, do you necessarily disagree? Or is it the implication you disagree with, that a strong family is somehow a policy decision that should be pursued in lieu of more manageable and achievable goals? There we go. That's a bit better.
Ouroboros that eats itself. It can't be a woman is anyone who says they are a woman, which is a woman. It's completely circular. That has no definition. If you want to define a category, the category has to have definition. And any attempt to broaden that category out to include things that are clearly not in that category, and in fact...
Like mother? See, look, at this point, not only is he not answering the question, he's going on to directly do the thing that, what's it, doom and gloom? Demi-gloom, not doom and gloom. Demi-gloom, addressed in her opener.
There are only two categories, male and female. They're actually in the other category. That is a fundamental assault on the truth, and nobody should accept that.
So, like, this is like NPC talking points from him, right? Like, he was asked a pointed question. He does the same rambling as always, which is truth is under attack by the concept that a woman could mean anything other than a biological female. Which, again, he's doing the thing the point that was made here. Here are some easy questions, okay? Is an adoptive mother a mother? And then he might say, well, they're not a biological mother. I didn't ask if they're a biological mother. I asked if they're a mother. Could an adoptive mother be asked, oh, are you that child's mom? And say yes. To which he would have to say yes, because everyone agrees on this. Legally and socially, everyone accepts the fact that adoptive parents are indeed parents. If he bit the bullet and said no, then he's opening himself up to a bunch of attacks there. But assuming he said yes, here's another question. By what metric, then, does a person become an adoptive mother? So you could argue, oh, it's by the state, like you can legally adopt someone. Okay, what happened if there was an apocalypse? The state dissolved and we're all, fending for ourselves out there. There's no longer any legal entity to grant the status of adoption. But you, a woman, find a child who's like 2 years old and you raise them from that age up to an adult and you spend your entire life operating in the role of a mother to that child. Are you their mother, even though you have no biological connection and there's no legal entity to officially grant you, the adoptive title? Can a person only be an adoptive parent in a context where the state allows them to? Now, I don't know what exactly he would say to this, but what I do know is that no conservative that I've ever talked to has come even close to addressing these questions. Not only do they not have an answer, they can't even reach this point. They usually deflect or go to a different topic or run away from it, or they answer a separate question, or they get flustered and don't engage. I have never seen a direct engagement with these questions. I don't think there is an engagement that could make them look good.
In one of your more infamous debates, you said, I'm not going to modify basic biology because it threatens your subjective sense of what you are.
Yes.
My argument is not that terms like biological female or biological male are necessarily
Like your hoodie, by the way.
fairly offensive. My argument is that you are saying that referring to a trans woman as a woman or a trans man as a man or et cetera, is like inherently offensive or threatens biology. And I'm curious why it's so threatened when there's clear precedent for changing the language.
Again,
Okay, so he's not going to answer this, obviously. I have to say, in terms of delivery, I feel like you're doing a lot better than you probably gave yourself credit for. You're very obviously nervous. If you were a perfect rhetorician, then you would project confidence in your posture and your speech. However, despite being very nervous, you're not stuttering. Like, you're actually speaking really clearly, and that's very impressive. Most people, when nervous, essentially lock up and can barely speak. Back when I was less proficient at public speaking, I would do that too. That's like a normal response to anxiety in that situation. You're projecting a nervousness, but it's not affecting the delivery of your message, which is impressive, and you should be proud of that.
the term mother does not include father. Every category has to have boundaries.
Not
The
answering the
boundary of
question.
female starts at male. And when you start including male in the category of female, you are threatening biological definitions as well as basic truth.
Well, you could say the category of mother.
Also, what he's saying is taxonomically nonsensical. The boundary of male is at the end of female. What does that even mean? Are you saying everything in the universe that is not a male is a female? Like, what do you mean? Everything in the universe that is not a female is a male? That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, he could be saying that there are only two categories, which is of course what he's trying to say, but the way he's trying to say it in this like edgy smart boy, like I through facts and logic, I will taxonomically lay out the definitions of it doesn't make any sense.
Starts at conception, or a biological relation to an offspring. But as we know,
But again, the idea that you are, the idea of motherhood being the act of mothering, right? And that is a female. A female does the act of mothering. You can say that a female who does the act of mothering is a mother, but you also have a special category called biological motherhood. I'm not going to say that an adoptive mom and a biological mom have precisely the same definition. They don't.
Nobody said they do, but they're both mothers. And since an adoptive mom can be a mom, that means being a mom is not a purely biological. Notice that what he just said, by the way, is an acknowledgement that trans women could be like, he did just admit, even though he can't grapple with it, that there are extra biological categories to these terms. There are exceptions that can be carved out. But again, like he can't engage with it. And don't get me wrong, by the way, when I say this, I don't think if I was there, I could get him to acknowledge this. At most, what you could do is interrupt more frequently, project confidence, come across as casually, disaffectedly amused by his inability to understand your question. What you want to do is fluster him. And the best way to fluster a person who's standing at a microphone behind a podium is to project to them that you're the one in control, even though they have all these signifiers of power. Look at him up there, behind the podium, on stage, 2 microphones, banners behind him. He should be in charge. And he is, of course, in technical terms, right? He can order your microphone taken away. He is in charge. But you can project enough confidence to fluster. And in flustering people, you open up opportunities to repeat your questions, to be incisive and direct. Now, I want to be clear, even the best rhetorician alive, I mean, even like some hypothetical god of speaking, would struggle to produce the best possible outcomes in an environment like this. So I just want to be clear here. In a direct one-on-one engagement, like maybe it's a different story, but in this environment,
underneath a subset of category called motherhood. That motherhood sometimes involves birth, sometimes it does not, but it's
sometimes the term mother is biologically determinative, and sometimes it isn't. I wonder if so you're just opening up the definition of motherhood then, huh? I thought the truth couldn't survive having definitions include things which clearly are not a part of the definition, but now you're saying, again, he's lost this argument. Anyone smart enough to see it knows this.
Certainly involves being a female.
What do you think about the distinction between cis women and trans women?
Explain.
Well, you're saying that a more inclusive usage of the word mother isn't particularly offensive because we also have biological mother.
Yes.
We've offered the
perfect. In terms of how you're doing this, delivery is the key. In terms of the messaging here, you are on point. In terms of how to project the messaging, the confidence in this case is key because the crowd is laughing at the difference in your projected assertiveness. He's up there being calm and calculated and rational, and you're there, you know, a student, you're nervous, you're leaning into the microphone. That the laughing, the tittering is because they anticipate his epic ownage of you, right? The destruction of you. What keeps them from laughing is the fear that you might get him. So this is how confidence compounds, and the lack of confidence compounds as well. The more they titter, the harder it is to get your points out. The more the audience appears to be on his side, the less charity people will afford to your points.
Term cis woman, and even biological woman or assigned female at birth. We've offered a variety of terms that properly categorize people.
Again, you cannot extend the term woman to apply to a biological male. Every category has an endpoint. If there are only two categories, male and female.
Again, this is taxonomically nonsensical. This doesn't make any sense. You can expand the definition of mother to include non-biological mothers, but you can't exclude the definition of woman to include non-biological women. It doesn't make any sense. He's essentially saying, "Nuh-uh, this is different."
And you say that female now is in this category. There are no definitions. There are no definitions. I mean, to paraphrase my friend Matt Walsh, I'm going to need you to explain what a woman is without reference to the word woman.
Wow, crazy. He's completely failed to answer the question and has dodged it every time, and now he's going to ask you what you think a woman is. Wow, this is why Ben Shapiro has stopped doing regular debates and is limiting his negative engagements to college circuits, okay? This is exactly why.
We can go on all day like this, but...
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily circular to say that a woman is someone who...
So at this point, and this compounds with time, at this point, the only response that you can make that will have any kind of positive outcome is to say, you failed to answer my question multiple times now. Why do you keep dodging it? There are a bunch of ways you could handle that, but past a point, the audience will begin to see you more and more as like a fiddly little technicalities deliverer. You know, somebody with, oh, but what about this? What about this? You're not, of course. You're not that. But you have to present yourself as a threat because that puts him in a position where he feels he has to respond to what you've said. Because at that point, if you accuse him of just flat out ignoring your question, he can either say, well, all right, what is it again? Or like, no, I haven't, or what? But like, he has to engage with it or flee. You know?
Exhibits womanhood.
Yes, it is.
And that
is definitionally circular.
Well,
and yeah, don't answer the question, what is a woman? They never care what your answer is. They will never engage with it. It is a complete waste of time. They might as well be asking you to like count out the digits of pi. Like, oh, well, if you're so smart, then why don't you get 100 digits of pi? And you're like, okay. Like, there's no point in doing it. It's always to waste your time, and nothing you say will change the content of the conversation. Unless you get one of the digits of pi wrong, or in this case, say anything even slightly rhetorically ineffective, in which case he'll jump on it.
That's like saying a hand is something that fundamentally shows handhood.
Well, what I have
a tree is something that demonstrates the qualities of treehood. What?
I mean, if you get down to the very basics of like linguistic theory, past a point that kind of is the bed. Yeah. Categories are made by us. We make categories. I mean, that's taxonomy, yeah. Trees demonstrate the categories of trees, and we determine the categories of trees, but they're not exactly consistent, you know? Yeah, okay, this is getting, like, it's like doctoral shit past a point, but, like, this is why you shouldn't even engage with it. You think a retard like this is going to, like, engage with linguistic theory, you know?
What new actual definitional content have you added to the word?
I can define womanhood for you, which is a set of characteristics associated with females, and a woman as someone who exhibits said womanhood.
Okay.
So what you're saying here isn't incorrect, and it's defensible with a bit of fleshing out, but you shouldn't even say it because it is you're listing the digits of pi.
Okay, well, you have just used the word female and woman to define each other. So you say a woman is a female, but not a biological female. A female is a woman, and a woman is a female. But at no point have you added any new content.
No, I said a woman is someone who exhibits.
This is another one of those fake smart guy gotchas where they're like, your definition includes the word you're defining. Define a chair. You can watch the whole goddamn Vsauce video if you want to, but yeah, it's not a real argument. Definitions are not objective. They're not concrete. There aren't rules. They're just what we generally agree upon. They're a social construct.
Womanhood, and womanhood is a set of characteristics.
Yes, and that doesn't mean anything.
How does it not
the
mean
reason it doesn't
anything?
mean, okay, again, a dog is a thing that exhibits the characteristics of doghood. It's
I mean, yeah.
a set of characteristics characterized by being a dog. I've added no content to that. If you have no idea what a dog is, you still have no idea what a dog is.
There are plenty of labels that refer to concepts. This is not a new thing.
It's not a label referring to a concept. It's a label that's referring to the same word as the concept. You can't do that. That's fundamentally circular.
Define a chair. Yeah. So I will say, an environment like this kind of necessitates aggression to an extent, very like controlled aggression. However, you aren't aggressive. And in spite of that, I actually think you've come across quite well here. You projected your voice clearly. You never backed down. You never seemed sort of like cowed or intimidated by his line of questioning. I think you actually did quite well here. You were very down in your email. I don't think it was warranted at all.
I'm saying that womanhood.
You have not defined even womanhood. You said a set of characteristics that applies to females, and then you're applying it to males. So clearly, this is nonsensical. I'm sorry that it doesn't. I'm sorry that your attempts to worm a definition into nonsense are not succeeding. But like, I can't make that fit into logic because it doesn't. I mean, I'm sorry.
And this is, of course, why aggression is necessary. You know, you're playing chess with a pigeon. The only way to win against a pigeon in a game of chess is to flip the table before it does, and flip it in its direction so it gets sort of hit with a bunch of chess pieces, and it hurts a little bit. Yeah, shit harder than it. Yeah, shit on the table harder than they do. What do you think would happen if you responded with adult human female when he asked? Don't. I just don't. Seriously, I've done this so many times. Whenever asked, what is a woman? All you have to say is, hey, we'll get to that, but you didn't answer my question. I don't appreciate you running away from it. And then if they're like, oh, you can't even answer woman, then you can just say like, hey, you can't even answer a question. I thought I was the one asking you questions. You're the one on stage. You want to switch places? Then you can ask me. Like and of course, this requires confidence, being quick-witted, because you're trying to reverse the power dynamic, make it seem like they're the one who needs to be, careful about how they speak. They're the one who has to be on off footing. All that being said, again, this is mostly rhetoric. This isn't really content. Vaush, they forced me to leave. I didn't back down, just to make it clear. Oh, I know that. I could see that. Sorry, I think maybe my webcam covered it up at the end there, but it was very clear from the way you turned around that somebody like ushered you away because you had you'd been speaking there for about 6 minutes. Yeah, but yes, good to clarify that. Remember when you debated that philosophy PhD and you called your idea of gender as postmodernism? What you describe your prescriptions that? No, anyone who says that a self-ID model of gender is postmodernist doesn't know what either of those things mean. Postmodernism is like a broad, it can mean a lot of things, but broadly like a theory of or understanding of truth that is pluralistic, that there are multiple narratives, multiple truths that have to be engaged with and woven together to form a concrete understanding of the world. And even then, like, postmodernists argue all the time over what it means to be postmodernist, okay? That has nothing to do with the concept that terms are social constructs. That's just a basic understanding of linguistics. It's also objectively correct. The idea that definitions are objective is an objectively incorrect take. It is unsupported at every level in semiotics, in linguistics, in history, anthropology. Okay, we're getting tweets. Hello, thank you. Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens are fighting again. What? Oh, shit, they really fighting. Candace said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake. You cannot serve both God and money. Christ is king. So Candace Owens is basically a Nazi. So a lot of this is just basic dog whistling. Like, Christ is king is almost exclusively the purview of, like, edgy tradcath whatevers. And Ben replies, Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit. Ooh. You've been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now. All we've had to sit back and allow of all try to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. But you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it. Ha! Guys, how many times have I said before? Ben Shapiro is on a ticking clock at the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is more and more becoming like a tradcath Nazi org. And everyone understands that. Everyone knows where they're shifting and why they're shifting that way. And Ben Shapiro is like the one resident Jewish, fascist, but not Nazi, like, holdout, I'm telling you, past a point, they're going to broken glass his ass. They're going to kick him out. Like, they already did this to an extent with Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder had a public beef with the Daily Wire with regards to a potential contract, and Steven Crowder was like, "Hey, you know, at least this way, I'm not working for a Jew." When he wasn't with the Daily Wire, and Candace Owens was Candace Owens defending Steven Crowder? I think she indicated some degree of sympathy. Or no, am I thinking of a different thing? No? Okay, then I am wrong on that. There was another instance where Candace Owens was being very contrarian to what Ben Shapiro was saying. Oh, it was Kanye. It was Kanye. Yeah, yeah. She defended Kanye when he was like openly Nazi posting. That was it. That was the thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The girls are fighting. She's anti-Semitic, no doubt. Oh, yeah, for sure. Ben Shapiro left his grifter arc soon, maybe? Nah. The most he would ever do is some Lincoln Project bullshit. Probably not even that.